business. We are excited that you have taken an interest in making your business more sustainable. Today, we will have opening remarks from Commissioner Higgins, who sponsored the Plastic 305 item last year, followed by the Chief Bay Officer, Irela Bague. We will also have a presentation from Debris-Free Oceans, explaining the harm that plastic does to our ecosystem. Lastly, you will hear from the county's Regulatory and Economic Resource Department, RER, on how to become plastic-free 305 certified. Please save your question towards the end of the speaker presentation. You may ask your questions using the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, or raise your hand towards the end of the presentation. Thank you, and off to you, Commissioner Higgins.
Well, good morning, everybody. Hope you're well. Thanks so much for joining us this morning to learn how you can make the world a better place, and in particular, our Bay a better place. The Plastic Free 305 initiative is an initiative put together by Miami-Dade County to help small business owners and big business owners learn how to transition from styrofoam, single-use plastics, all of those things into a more sustainable business style. The mayor and I launched this last year with the help of some of the trusty folks you'll meet on this call, including our Chief Bay Officer, the team from RER, and of course, our friends at Debris-Free Oceans. We've had businesses large and small join into this voluntary program, and we try to spread the word about your business so that you get more business. We've also had some very large businesses join. For example, Hard Rock Stadium and the Dolphins are a plastic-free stadium, and when you go there, you'll see that you're buying, if you buy water, it is in a recyclable container that has no plastic in it, so aluminum. Anyway, it's very exciting that you want to help show the way and have businesses lead. So I'll turn it over to our fabulous, fantastic Chief Bay Officer who fights tirelessly for better water quality and bay quality, both here locally, up in Tallahassee, and even up in Washington. So Irela, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Commissioner. And I'll just kind of give a little bit of some history and about Biscayne Bay and where we are. And as we all know, unfortunately, by now, that the Biscayne Bay watershed continues to be threatened by a lack of fresh water, nutrient pollution from our stormwater runoff, sewage pipe breaks, compromised septic systems, and of course, trash and plastic pollution. So marine debris is actually one of the most widespread problems stressing our world's oceans, waterways, and coastlines. And so, you know, we've all seen that huge or many huge trash patches all over the world's oceans. And so all of that is impacting our wildlife and fisheries, as well as the economies that depend on it. And so, you know, when we look at where is this marine debris coming from? Well, the actions that we take on land and in the marine environment are really impacting, and it's really where all of this pollution is coming from. 80% of marine debris is coming from land-based sources. So what we do on land definitely impacts our waterways and of course Biscayne Bay. And so to reduce marine debris and the impacts of our waterways and Biscayne Bay, the Biscayne Bay Task Force placed a strong focus on reducing marine debris through education and by recommending that the county develop environmentally sustainable plastic-free best practices for commercial businesses in particular. So, and they also recognize that every citizen and visitor has to be educated about the water quality impacts related to littering, and, you know, develop a personal connection and a responsibility to improve the health of Biscayne Bay. So we were very excited last year with Commissioner Higgins' leadership on the County Commission, when we established the Plastic Free 305 program and launched it with the mayor at last year's Bonanza cleanup. And since then, the program has been up and running. We've partnered with great partners like Debris-Free Ocean and the Department of Environmental Resources Management. But really, my call is a call to action from the business community. We need your support to work towards transitioning from the use of single-use plastics to sustainable products. And it's not that hard and it's not expensive. That's a myth, and you will hear about that. So really help us become part of the solution by joining Plastic Free 305 and become a Biscayne Bay friendly business. We can do this together. Thanks. I think now we'll turn it over to Debris Free Oceans, right, Danny?
Yes, Maddie, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to speak alongside our water warriors, Commissioner Higgins and Chief Bay Officer Irela, and my dear friend from DERM, Marie. I'm going to do a little bit about the impacts of plastics, but then focus on the positives of what we can do. I had to cut this presentation down, so if anything is of interest to you, please reach out. I have even more things to share, but I'm going to jump right in so that I can get through all that I want to share. If you'll go to the next slide, I'm going to start a timer because I tend to talk way too much about these things. So quick background. You guys might have seen this stat. It came out in March, a new paper that found that there's now 170 trillion pieces of plastic in the ocean. That is over 20,000 pieces of plastic per person on this planet. This was from around 11,000, 12,000 water samples using data from 1979 to 2019. And we really are just in a point of crisis when it comes to pollution in our ocean related to plastics. So if we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And this is data from the International Coastal Cleanup Day in 2019. That's a single day that the Ocean Conservancy mobilizes volunteers from around the world to go out, pick up trash, and collect data using the app CleanSwell. And then they compile all of that data into a report to paint a picture of what the debris washing on our coastlines looks like. And you can see we're seeing these items, these top 10 items, food wrappers, plastic bottles, bottle caps, straws and stirrers, just washing up in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Again, one single day. And this is the point where I normally kind of stop and ask the audience what they have in common, but since we're on Zoom and pressed for time, I'll just spoil it for you, and you probably know. One, they're all made of plastics, which is a permanent material. 99% of plastics are made from fossil fuels. They consist of these really strong carbon-carbon bonds that are just super resistant to degradation, and they're single use. And so we use them very quickly and then we throw them out. And it just does not make sense to use this permanent material to make these single-use items in masses. The last thing they have in common relevant to this webinar is that a lot of them are from the business and food service industry. So we're seeing what a lot of our restaurants and markets are giving out. So we have a way to potentially address this from these common themes. If you'll go to the next slide. And I often hear like, it's okay, my consumers throw our stuff away. We have really great trash receptacles. But unfortunately, that's not a solution at this point, given the kind of trash crisis that Miami is in. We are seeing our landfills just absolutely reach their capacity. We're having to open up cells, and we just don't have infinite space to dispose of all of this waste. And so we need to find out ways to divert waste from the oceans and the landfills. And I also wanted to add that the University of Georgia did a study in Miami a few years ago about circularity. And they found that the average person in Miami-Dade produces 8 pounds of trash per day, which is 3 pounds higher than the national average. So there's something we're doing here in Miami where we're producing way more waste than the average consumer across the country. And so we need to be held accountable and see what we can do to reduce this number. You'll go to the next slide. And so before we jump into how to go plastic free, we'll give you a couple of reasons why to get you on the sustainability train, breaking it out into a few categories, one being some branding benefits, one being economic benefits, which the branding feeds into, one being health benefits, and then finally some environmental benefits. They'll go to the next slide. So first, touching on consumer demand and branding, I think every day I see a new study or headline about how consumers are demanding more and more sustainability from the businesses and companies that they support. And so these are just a couple of studies I wanted to point out. This one from Oceana in Florida here, they surveyed around 400 voters and found 92% of Floridians are concerned about plastic pollution. So that's 9 in every 10 people. So here in Florida, our people care. And then this Forbes headline is from a survey of 1,000 people across the US and UK. Again, a similar statistic, around 9 in 10 people want their companies that they work with to help them make a difference when it comes to environmental sustainability. And this last headline, you can probably tell I love statistics, but this last headline is from a survey of 10,000 people across 17 countries. And I really like this finding because it's about how more than 1/3 of people are willing to pay more for sustainable alternatives. So it's beyond just being concerned, it's beyond just wanting their businesses to help. People are willing to invest more of their money into supporting these causes. And this also means you can slightly raise your prices if you're incorporating some sustainability initiatives, because people are willing to pay for that. They'll go to the next slide. And so that previous slide feeds into this, the economic benefits, where as you go green, clearly consumers care about this and want to see this. So you're going to see more people through your doors. So that feeds into these economic benefits. Another economic benefit is guaranteed saving money by cutting some items out. This headline from LA, they actually have an ordinance there that is a no disposables or disposables only upon request. And so that means you can only give out disposables if the consumer asks you to. And they found that a commissioner there said that business owners are reporting savings of thousands of dollars per year by just preventing handing these out all the time. And then you're also going to, if you're switching to a reusable item in-house, that is a guaranteed money saver. And it's intimidating because that reusable item is always going to be more expensive up front because it's nicer, it's built to last, but you only have to place that order once. Compared to your disposables, you're probably ordering hundreds on a weekly basis, every week, every month, every year, constantly paying that money. So if you switch to reusable, you cut out that cost, and you do have to replace things because people like to walk away with cups that they think are cute, or people can break things, few kids coming to your restaurant, but it only ends up being a small amount, like a 4% monthly loss rate. And so this example is from a restaurant that phased out their disposable bowls, disposable lids, and disposable trays in their restaurant. And it only took days to months to regain that investment in the reusable replacements. And then they ended up saving thousands per year. And I pointed out on the slide, the eliminating a paper burger wrap example. That one's great because they just cut it out. There was no even reusable replacement. They were just able to cut out that waste and save that money from not ordering that item. And so there are really amazing ways to save money. So go to the next slide. Another big one that's emerging as more and more important are the health benefits. I feel like, again, every day, I'm obviously tuned into very biased plastics related channels, but I feel like every day I see a new article about plastics being found somewhere else in the human body. They've been found in human lungs, in human stool, in human blood, even in human breast milk and human placentas. So that means we're passing these microplastics onto our children before they even come into the world. And while these studies are while we're still figuring out what all this means for human health, microplastics have been linked to inflammation, to cancer, to certain diseases. And so we're really beginning to understand what this all means, but by phasing out plastics and the harmful chemicals that are added to these products and wrappings, you're supporting human health. If you'll go to the next slide. And then finally, near and dear to a lot of our hearts on this call is the environmental benefits. like we said before, there's so much of this pollution in our ocean. It entangles our wildlife. When animals consume it, they can't digest it within their stomachs, so they think they're full and they stop eating and can starve themselves. And so plastics have impacted harmfully, I think, over 900 species of wildlife and counting. I just included a couple of local Florida examples here, where we're finding whales washing on our shores with plastics in their stomach. This screenshot from the Gumbo Limbo Center in Boca, they said that 100% of the sea turtle washbacks, so the sea turtles that leave the nest but don't survive to make it out to the Gulf Stream and wash back on shore dead, 100% of them had plastics in their stomach one year, including this turtle here that had over 100 pieces of plastic within that turtle alone. And Oceana did a big survey of plastic impacts on wildlife throughout the United States and found that Florida has the highest incidence, which makes sense because we're a beautiful peninsula with a really gigantic coastline. But again, just needs to emphasize how we need to kind of take accountability and responsibility over our resources and help reduce this. So if you'll go to the next slide. Thank you. So in summary, you can increase efficiency, save money, improve your branding, change the world, all these amazing things. So I hope that short intro convinced you to hop on this train. If you'll go to the next slide. And so now we'll do a quick crash course in how to make your business more sustainable. Again, crash course. If you want more information about anything we cover, we're happy to relay this to you. If you'll go to the next slide. And so this is kind of our hierarchy of what we find most important as a business is moving towards being plastic free. Number one being reducing your plastic purchasing in general. Number two being replacing those plastics with reusables when you need those items. Number three being replacing with backyard compostable disposables if you do need disposables. And then last resort, but still important, is also recycling and identifying the most recyclable items to have at your business. You'll go to the next slide. And we'll just do, I think there's a couple of slides on each of these. So number one priority, cutting out what you don't need. What can you just completely phase out? Again, this is guaranteed money saver because you're not replacing it with anything. You're just reducing your waste and saving money. And so you see that with these skip the straw campaigns. You don't need straws. My mom is always worried about wrinkles from drinking out of straws, so you can have that angle too. It's good to keep a couple on hand because people with disabilities sometimes do need straws, but then phase out. You don't have to order as many. You can identify packaging that is unnecessary. Like in this picture, there's, I guess that's crab meat in a container wrapped within saran wrap and styrofoam. Don't need that saran wrap and styrofoam. You can cut that out. And then I included a picture of Aldi, one of my favorite spots. And I just love that they don't give out anything to people to check out at the grocery store. It makes their lines super fast. And it's such a great behavior changer because if someone forgets their bags and has to unload their 100 single grocery items into their car and then take that into their house later, they definitely remember their bag next time. So just ways to cut out. Another thing you can another way to reduce is by implementing that disposables only upon request, like we talked about in that earlier slide in LA. So that's where you only give things out when your consumers request it. We can put out signage around the restaurant. With this, it is really important that you educate your staff so that they know to implement this. But really great way to save money, and we can provide signs for you with some plastic-free 305 logo on it if you'd like. And you can go to the next slide. Another way to reduce your purchasing is buying in bulk when you can. This is just one example for coffee shops. You can buy your coffee creamer in bulk rather than these smaller single-use creamer containers. Still plastic, but less plastic. is fantastic. So there's a lot of opportunities to explore buying in bulk. And then if you're feeling super motivated, this is like ultimate sustainability goals, but wanted to share them with you all, is exploring alternative delivery systems for refill. And so we actually have a zero waste delivery service in Miami called the Rounds that delivers items in reusable containers and then takes those containers back from you. You might have seen these EcoPod kiosks that are in some grocery stores, and they dispense cleaning supplies into your reusable containers. And then there's also the amazing Verde Market that we have here. That is a refill store for cleaning supplies, but also foods and spices and everything you might need. And they have locations in Midtown and Sunset and Fort Lauderdale, which are just really great pathways to zero waste that I hope to see grow in the future. If you'll go to the next slide. So we can't cut out everything. And so for the items that you do need, if you can, it's great to switch to reusables rather than another disposable. Like we said earlier, this is a guaranteed money saver after that initial investment. And we actually have a tool on our website that we developed thanks to funding from the city of Miami Beach a few years ago, where we will calculate how much time it takes for you to regain that initial investment in a reusable, and then what your annual savings will be each year. And so you input information about your venue, you input like your venue capacity, the reusable item that you're interested in. And then if you don't have information about your replacement, we autofill it based on some market research about reusable replacement costs. And so that's a great tool. And even more excitingly, we have a new nonprofit partner, Plastic Free Restaurants, and they will help pay businesses to make the switch to reusables. So they will pay 100% of the cost difference if you're switching to a plastic-free reusable from a plastic disposable, and 25% of the cost difference to switch to a plastic reusable compared to a plastic disposable. So if you're interested in taking advantage of that, let us know. We'd be happy to help coordinate. If you'll go to the next slide. And you do need a dishwasher if you're going to have these reuse programs. And so if you don't have one, wanted to quickly introduce a washing system that is pretty affordable, can fit in a pretty confined space, which is this three sink system where you have 3 sinks, one of them with a detergent solution, one of them with hot water, and one of them with a sanitizer solution. And you just dip and kind of scrub through each of these sinks. It's pretty time efficient, so it doesn't take too much time, and then set them to dry. And so we actually have one of these at the University of Miami's Marine Science campus. And so I encourage you to look into that if you're figuring out how to wash. And if a dishwasher system is just completely not possible, no space, there are still things you can do to encourage reusable containers by implementing a bring your own container program. And so that's when you incentivize people to bring their own reusables, and then you give them your food, your services in that reusable container, and they take it home, which is great because then you're not buying reusable containers. Then you don't have to buy them. Then you don't have to worry about washing them. And so you can incentivize that by doing a discount on an item if you bring your own container, or a free pastry if you bring your own cup for coffee. If you're worried about giving away too many free things because your BYO program pops off because it's super popular and people demand it, Trader Joe's actually does, if you bring your own bag, you get entered into a monthly raffle to receive a gift card. And so that way they know they're only giving out 1 gift card per month, but they're still encouraging people to bring their own bags. If you'll go to the next slide. Another way to implement reusable options. This is super exciting, also new. I feel like I preface a lot of things with this new, like a new organization, a new initiative, which is super exciting because I just feel like there's really big momentum in this space right now. But a reusable to go where program just arrived to Miami in the last couple months. I think they are working with about 3 businesses. They have a bigger presence on the west coast of Florida, but it's called Bague Box. And it's a $250 one-time startup fee right now to work with them. And they'll provide a bunch of containers to your business. And then your consumers will pay a $1 non-refundable sustainability fee to get their item in that reusable to-go container. And then they can take that with them or receive that as delivery. And then they schedule a time for someone from Bague Box to actually pick up that container from their doorstep. So you don't have to go anywhere. But if you are going to be by the business that provided you your container, you can drop it off there too. So this is super exciting. Really, I think this is the future of eliminating plastic pollution. So if you're interested in being one of the pioneering businesses working with them, please reach out. If you'll go to the next slide. And so, at least for now, we know that reusable to go, reusable carryout is not hugely scalable, about to take over. So in the meantime, we know that disposables will be necessary. And so the best disposables to avoid those plastics and join Plastic Free 305 are really natural materials that are made from materials that come from the earth. Think bamboo, which is great because it grows super quickly. Think paper and wood, palm leaves, wheat straw, again, things that are made from the earth. So when it ends up in the earth, there are microbes there that will digest it into water and CO2 and nutrients. And so we actually have a tool on our website to help businesses identify these items. Also, thanks to some funding from the city of Miami Beach a few years back at debrisfreeoceans.org/responsible products. You can browse by size, you can browse by item, and there are some discount codes in there. And these are also all USA based, if not local to South Florida companies, to support our local economy and reduce the carbon footprint of transportation. If you'll go to the next slide. What you will notice is not on there are any bioplastic products. I'm going to try not to rant too long about bioplastics, but quick blurb about what they are. They are made from natural feedstocks like agave or avocado or starch. So that's good because they're not made from fossil fuels like traditional plastics, but they are chemically modified into become these polymers that almost look and behave almost identically to traditional plastics. They do break down in industrial composting facilities where they add heat and add oxygen and turn things. But we don't have any of those in Florida. And these bioplastics don't break down in the environment or in home composts. And so we don't support the use of these right now. You probably have seen agave straws. They are all over the place now. But we would be happy to help you identify alternatives to these bioplastics, which are very expensive also. So we'll help you move away from those. If you'll go to the next slide. And as you're switching to these compostable disposables, the ones from our responsible products catalog, it is ideal that you have a composting system or program set up so that they don't end up just going to the landfill where they will pile up and persist and contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. If they do leak to the environment, again, they will break down, which is great. But ideally, you can implement a composting initiative too, to send those to the best place possible. There's a great company, Compost for Life, and does residential and commercial composting pickups at a schedule that works for your business. They have these big bins here, as you can see, and also smaller buckets. And yeah, we'll come and pick it up. They've said that people that we refer to them can do a 1-month free trial to see how it goes. So I'd be happy to connect you. You also can consider composting drop-off. There are a couple community composts that you can take compostables to, such as the Miami Beach Botanical Garden in Miami Beach and North Miami Beach, and Back to Earth in Coconut Grove. I also added a little blip here about starting your own compost. That's a whole nother awesome project. I don't have time to go into how to implement that on this call, but it is fun. If you're interested in creating your own compost pile, you could do that. But again, composting is huge for making sure we're returning nutrients to replenish our soil and combat our greenhouse gas emissions. So huge fans of composting over here at DFL. If you'll go to the next slide. So then finally, we put recycling last, it's kind of lowest priority, which you'll see why in a second, but you should do proper recycling when you can because it saves resources and saves greenhouse gas emissions. Kind of the best item for recycling, in our opinion, are these aluminum cans and bottles. Because aluminum is the most efficiently recycled material. It can be recycled constantly without losing quality. It also has the best market. So that means buyers are actually buying the aluminum scrap, which drives the actual recycling of this material because recycling is a market. We put cartons kind of in the middle because it really is in a confusing gray zone where Miami-Dade County does recycle cartons, and they are like largely made of like a natural paper cardboard, but they are lined with plastic to help prevent leaking. And so that can impact recycling. And so it's kind of unclear. We really focus on the cans, but I do think a box that's majority cardboard might be better than plastic bottle. Don't take my word on that. We love the cans, but then we kind of put the plastic bottles as our last resort. They are recyclable in Miami-Dade County, but plastic loses quality every time it's recycled, and you always have to add virgin plastics to it to maintain a quality that you want. And so we don't. That's our last resort. And if you go to the next slide, I'll have a little bit more on why. So next slide, thank you. So yeah, in Miami, unfortunately, plastic bottles are the only plastic that's recyclable and curbside recycling. So that means no straws, no cutlery, no plates, no other plastic except for these narrow neck bottles. And according to FDP data from 2020, only 1% of the plastic bottles that entered the waste stream in Miami-Dade were actually recycled. And so it's the one thing that is recyclable, but it's barely recycled. So that's just my reminder that recycling is not the solution right now. But did want to add another new initiative called Replenish has also just come to Miami. They are funded by extended producer responsibility bills. And so they actually provide free recycling pickups to businesses and compensate you for the recyclables that they take from you. They only work with plastic bottles and aluminum cans because they're helping the producers take responsibility over those. But that really reduces the contamination rate. So they probably see higher recycling rates through Replenish. So if you want to be paid for the recyclables you have at your business, again, let me know. So if you go to the next slide, and I'm almost done, kind of out of time. And so just quickly, I really love these plastic-free programs because they really emphasize the role of business and government in solving this problem. There's so much communication out there about putting the onus on the consumer and on us, how we need to remember our bags, remember our bottles, which is important, but it's going to take all of us to solve this massive problem. And we can only do so much as consumers unless our governments and businesses help us. And unfortunately, in Florida, we have a preemption at the state level that prevents us from regulating plastic containers at the local level. So Miami-Dade County cannot ban plastic bags right now. But that's why this program is beautiful, because it still incentivizes businesses to eliminate these items anyways. And then one day, maybe we can take this list up to Tallahassee and be like, look at all these businesses doing it anyways. We should be allowed to do these things. And so, yeah, we've got Plastic Free 305, which Commissioner Higgins touched on, launched last year. So amazing. Marie's going to go into it. I just want to thank the early programs that the earlier local programs that contributed to Plastic Free 305, like Commissioner Higgins' Greener Coral Way business certification program with Clio. And we helped the city of Miami Beach create Plastic Free MB a few years ago. And I'm just so glad these inspired a county level initiative, because now we can work with any business throughout all of the county to recognize them for what they're doing. Because before I would be like, oh, sorry, you're not in Miami Beach, so we can't give you this certification. So thank you so much to the county for creating this program. If you go to the next slide, I promise this is my last one. Quick side note here, we got funding with the Ocean Conservancy and the Big Blue and You to run a 2-year program called Plastic Free Cities. It involves us training high school students to go out to businesses and recruit them to Plastic Free 305 and talk to them about plastic pollution. It's been awesome. The businesses love to hear from the students more than us. And the students grow so much learning how to speak to business owners. It has a focus on inland communities around the Miami River. So we're in Hialeah, Doral Medley, Miami Springs, Hialeah Gardens, and City of Miami. So if you are a business owner in any of those areas, we have unique funds to run specific consulting initiatives with you. So please reach out and I'd be happy to share more. And that's my last slide. Last actual slide. People are always like, how are you so optimistic? I'm like, we sent people to the moon. We can figure out our trash problems on the earth. And so I'm very optimistic for our future and grateful for the partners on this webinar helping us achieve our sustainability goals.
Thank you very much, Maddie, for your presentation. All right, Maribel, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Marie Bell, and I run the day-to-day operations, if you want, for the Plastic Free 305 program. First of all, I'd like to thank Commissioner Higgins, Irela, Chief Bay Officer, and Maddie. That presentation was awesome. So if you have any questions about our program in terms of what you can do, please see Maddie. Next slide, please. So as been mentioned before, this is a voluntary and free program. It encourages the businesses to reduce the plastics. It helps to connect businesses with the resources such as debris-free ocean. And also it's an opportunity to celebrate the businesses that have taken the pledge to reduce their plastic consumption. So what is Plastic Free 305? Next slide, please. So no matter where your business is, you can help to reduce plastics in your community because, as been mentioned before, the plastic, as you can see in this picture, doesn't go away. It ends up in your body somewhere, somehow. So what are the benefits of joining the program? Next slide, please. Your business will be highlighted in the Miami-Dade County Plastic Free 305 website. Next slide, please. You will receive your free 305 marketing tool, and you'll get a decal, which you can put on your collaterals. Next slide, please. So the Plastic Free 305 program is a 3-tier program. You get a tier 1, which is the yellow, if you make the pledge to remove plastics from your business. You get a tier 2 if you have removed 2 or more single-use plastics. And tier 3 is if you're 100% plastic free. I can proudly say that in the program that 1/3 of our businesses right now that have registered are completely plastic free, which I think is phenomenal. What are the requirements? Next slide, please. To be eligible, you have to commit to remove any of the items listed above: drinking bottle, grocery bags, produce bags, cups, lids, cutlery, straws, ramekins, stirrers, plastic food wrap. What are some of the eligible products? Next slide, please. How can your business apply? Next slide, please. You can go to our website, www.miamidade.gov/plasticfree305. Next slide, please. You click on Apply Now and complete the information. Next slide, please. Your business contact information, your address, because we send you a nice little package after you've been approved as a Plastic Free 305 business. Next slide, please. And that's it. Next slide, please. Well, thank you. We get to send you this. I have one here. I don't know if you could see it. Get a nice little bag. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for presenting. We're going to open it up to Q&A. We have a question in the chat box from Franklin. Excellent presentation, many great ideas. Could we get a copy of the presentation for implementation? Yes, you definitely can, Franklin. If you could write your email in the chat box as well, or email someone on this presentation, we will gladly send it over to you.
And Danny, we can also find all the materials for Plastic Free 305 at miami-dade.gov/plastic-free 305 or miami-dade.gov/Biscayne Bay.
Thanks, Irela. All right, is there anyone with their hand raised? Do you have any more questions? Let's see. Okay, someone else wants the presentation. You can definitely have that. Great, I'm just getting your email, Claudia. And Maddie also shared her contact information on the webinar chat if you would like to ask Debris-Free Ocean some more information. And Irela also put the link to the Plastic Free 305 program. Thank you both. Do we have any more questions from our participants? I'll just give it a minute or two if people are typing their questions into the chat box. All right, I think that's it for questions. I am also going to type my email address into the webinar chat box if you would like to connect with our office, or if you would like me to connect you to any of the panelists today. Thank you to all the panelists for your excellent presentations. You are truly making a difference in the health of our environment, and our office definitely appreciates all that you do. This concludes our webinar for the Plastic Free 305 program. Thank you everyone for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.